it's hot. It's too hot. Right now, Airbnb is valued more than Booking.com. If we're solely just looking at nights booked, even the nights booked don't even line up. I would wait a quarter. I would wait to, let's see how Q4 for Airbnb does. Airbnb is, I think, hovering now around $145 a share, as you can see here, which is up over $76 from where the stock opened, over 100%. So is this too much? Well, there's a couple things to look at. Let's look at Airbnb's S1. This is what Airbnb came out with, when filing with the SEC. And look at these numbers here. So there are 28 days. These are 28 million nights booked is how Airbnb tracks this. And many of their competitors, like a Booking.com, does as well. So you got 28 million in July, 26 million in August, call it 24 million in September. You can see their numbers in Q4 of 2019 were actually much higher, 28 million being the lowest number, right? So you had that number in July, but then it started to go down August, September. They're telling the story that they're bouncing back. But, the question is, well, is that actually the case? Or is this thing overpriced? Let's compare this with Booking.com. Here's Booking.com third quarter earnings release here. You can see 127 million nights booked in Q3 of 2020. Right? That went down to 28 million in Q2 of 2020 and was at 124 million in Q1. So let's just compare that against Airbnb's numbers. So you've got about, call it, 78 million in Q3 of 2020 for Airbnb. And you got 127 million for Booking.com. Q2 Booking had 28. Airbnb had more. They had about 50 million in Q2. Q1, kind of before really COVID hit, Airbnb had about 89, 90 million. Q1 of 2020, Booking.com had 124 million. So obviously these businesses are really valued on growth and the trajectory of growth. So is Airbnb going to be growing more than Booking.com? Booking.com has different inventory. Booking.com has a lot more hotel inventory than they do from the user-generated kind of, peer-to-peer type of model that Airbnb has, right? So they're not apples to apples, but they're certainly much closer than comparing Marriott to Airbnb. Right now, Airbnb is valued more than Booking.com. Booking.com has an $86 billion valuation. I mean, if you just look at it on the surface, again, Booking.com, they monetize those nights differently than Airbnb does. It's kind of a lot more hotel than user-generated, kind of peer-to-peer sharing, right? In the home that Airbnb is. They have different growth profiles of the business. But to me, Airbnb just feels high. You look at where they were valued in the private markets, right? They were valued in the low 30s of billions of dollars going into 2020, right? So in 2019, they had low 30s. Then they went down to the high teens when they had to take this money quickly because of COVID from some of these private equity financiers. So how do you go from 32 to 18 to greater than Booking? If we're solely just looking at nights booked, even the nights booked don't even line up, right? And then you look at Booking.com. Booking.com does other stuff. They've got rental cars in here, which is small. They've got airline tickets in here. It just seems high to me. And we don't know the full picture of Airbnb, right? It's actually much harder when you look at Airbnb's S1 to kind of get a much stronger kind of apples to apples comparison. I would wait a quarter. Let's see how Q4 for Airbnb does, right? Let's see how Q4 of 2020 lines up against Q4 of 2019. You look at booking.com here, right? You look at their year over year growth. They're growing at 10, 11, 12% year over year. You look at these quarterly growth rates here in nights sold. It's not bad. It's not bad growth. I mean, it's decent growth. It's not amazing growth. It's decent growth. And if anything, I think what we are seeing is that the COVID and pandemic has prevented an opportunity for the bookings and the Expedias to move into more of Airbnb's territory. So there's still a lot of unknown with Airbnb. Or just wait a little bit. It's hot. It's too hot. It's too hot for me to touch. As you know, personally, if right, it's a platform. Eventually, it will definitely be in plat. When there's a rebalance and all that kind of stuff, it definitely fits all the platform criteria. But again, I'm actually thankful that plat isn't rebalancing anytime soon because, you know, plat including Airbnb at $145 a share. Yeah, that's probably going to come down a little bit. I would wait. To kind of let the dust settle, let the fervor settle, let the hysteria settle. It's just too aggressive right now. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.